welcome back to A Better World. This is your host, Mitchell J. Rabin, and I'm very glad you're joining us again today. Today we are continuing on with Cal Garrison, the author of this book, The Astrology of 2012 and Beyond, and we are seated here in her home in beautiful Sedona, Arizona. It's an extraordinary place. It's a healing place, and it's a sacred place, and you really get that feeling just by dwelling in the mountains here and just beholding the mountains, where wherever you go here, you see and feel the red rocks, and they have a power of their own. So it seems very auspicious and appropriate that we be here together to talk about this.
Oh, I know.
Especially since we met some 30 or so years ago.
I know. I know, it's
so
funny.
Let's pick up on this theme of cycles, Cal, and the importance of them, because basically what you're saying, based on the work of Drunvalo, with whom you've been working very closely for the past some years, and his consolidation of a lot of information that he has been receptive to and able to get from the elders, especially Central and South American, as I understand.
Yeah.
And it seems like he has synthesized the information and concretized it in a way, as have you, to give us a real picture, a concrete picture of what it is this means when we refer to the Great Shift.
Yes. Yeah, I think that a lot of the publicity that, the apocalyptic information that's so popular, the things that we see in the tabloids, there are all kinds of surface signs of what could pull you down a very interesting rabbit hole. And if you actually wanted to go a little deeper into this stuff, you'd find out everything you wanted to know about what's going on right now. You were mentioning earlier about the Vedas and how they make definite reference to the different yugas and the different cycles of time. Mm-hmm. All of their cycles coincide with the Mayan cycles. And for anybody that studies astrology in any depth at all, you cannot be introduced to that subject without finding out something out about the precession of the equinox, which is what all of this cyclical stuff is based on.
Yes.
So for me, it's always been part of my vocabulary. It's only lately. And it's funny because I remember back in the 70s, back when we were hanging out in Warwick, this became a really big preoccupation for me, thinking about, I'm living in this time. What am I going to do? At that time, I had 2 little babies. What am I going to do about my children? What does this mean for us? How is it going to happen? And I feel as if I spent my whole life preparing for this on some level. The last several years, and I would say, maybe since I began to get interested in Drunvalo's work, the interest has escalated, and for some reason or other, I got pulled into this vortex of information that just took me deeper and deeper and deeper. And now it seems like people are wanting to talk to me about it, which is really hilarious to me. But that's okay.
But it shouldn't be, because you have been very studious for a long time. You've digested a lot of information. You have a beautiful mind that knows how to process and interpret, with a backdrop of the stars,
Oh, it's very interesting to see what's going on with the planets now. And what fascinated me with all of this was, understanding a little bit about the Book of Revelation and what that has to say about it. Understanding the story of the ascension process, which is keyed into all of this too, because the Great Shift is the ascension, all right? And then really
describe for our audience what that is.
The whole crucifixion thing, the whole resurrection thing, and then the ascension, and then the descent of the Holy Spirit on the day of the Pentecost. Those are all key events. Okay, now, forgive me, all of your Jewish viewers, but the belief in the Christian church, goes a certain way. But
Sure.
the truth about those mysteries okay, is not something that you could really decipher if you went to the Bible or, talk to people who are authorities on that subject, I don't think, from that perspective. It is a very interesting thing because, he was famous for saying, what I do, all men can do.
And beyond, and more.
Yeah. And he was chosen to perform that service for us so that the information or the codes, okay, that needed to be placed in the Akashic records, okay, so that in time, as the information that he seeded in those records sort of trickled down through the generations, everybody knew, even Christ knew, that it would take 2,000 years for those codes to seed themselves in the collective mind in time for us to go through this dimensional shift, aka pole shift, aka ascension process that we are all about to experience.
Yes.
So the ascension is a key piece. And
so the ascension, you could say, is the earth going through the period of the shift, followed by the days of, you referred to a red fog / gas, then a period of some days of darkness, pitch black, and to rebirth on another level.
Completely different level. But the laws and things that are axiomatic in that reality are not the same as they are here. And it's as if we're going to heaven.
Yes.
Whatever our definitions of heaven circumscribe, that's where we're going. And this is another thing that makes it sound like a whole bunch of New Age phony baloney. And hey, believe me, I question myself daily because I do sound like a bit of a fanatic. What if it doesn't happen? Okay, now that's a really interesting question. Because one way or another, something's going to happen. We're on our last legs here. I don't care. So whether the pole shift or not, we've got to pull ourselves together and get into a completely different space with ourselves. Exactly. And I'm pretty sure that it's going to happen. So I don't have a problem with it. According to the elders, it's May 10th, 2010.
2010?
Yes.
So then I was going to mention that Carl Kalaman, who's an expert in the Mayan calendar and has gotten the blessings of the elders, says that the end of the Mayan calendar is not 2012 December, but October 28th, 2011.
Okay. Well, it's funny. When I had to write the 2012 book, that was my job, is to use astrology to see what the astrology would say about the dates.
And?
Well, when I did the astrology for the 2012 date, there was nothing in that chart that would indicate anything was going to change or shift here.
Oh.
So nothing. It wasn't even interesting.
Yeah, I see.
And
not an asteroid around.
It wasn't, there was really nothing that was worthy of note that would cause an astrologer to say, well, yeah, that would be enough to trigger off
corroboration.
Oh my God. Ever since back in 2007, the blue star of Hopi prophecy appeared. Okay, that kicked off the end times. We knew at that time there would be a 2-year window. All right, so that was the end of 2007. And according to the prophecy, there would be a 3-month to up to a 2-year window wherein we would see the entire outer reality dissolve. Well, within a year, the whole financial system in the United States, all over the world, collapsed.
Exactly.
A lot of things have changed. I don't know if any of you are hip to the tent cities and some of the stuff that's going on in the country right now, but a lot of things are changing. Well, this, the homeless problem has gotten worse because of everybody losing their property and their jobs and stuff. Yeah. There are people living in tent cities all over the United States. They're everywhere.
Really?
Yeah. It's just like it was back during the Depression and the Dust Bowl. All right?
People were living in tents in the middle of Central Park during the Depression. That hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
God willing it won't, but
well,
who knows?
Interesting. They say that a lot of things are going to shift by the end of October. Okay, today is the 26th of October. I have heard various reports saying that they're finally going to pull the plug on the financial markets at the end of this month. And it's interesting because they normally time their activities around the great pagan cross quarters, and they have their reasons for doing that. But from an astrological perspective, for me, the lineup of planets that began in the beginning of 2008 and that has been holding steady, okay, through 2008, through 2009, and will continue to hold steady until May 2010, when a lot of things shift.
May 20?
May 20, excuse me,
May
May 10.
10.
Yeah, May 10th.
2010.
2010. I will say that if you look at the four directions or the main angles of the Earth's horoscope, all of the malefic planets are lined up on what is known as the axis of the world. And for me, that was the biggest indication that there would probably be a pole shift, because the entire horizon line, okay, and that which connects us to the Earth, along with the main axis of the Earth's horoscope, which connects us to the rest of the reality, okay, all of that is getting shaken and stirred by Saturn on the Earth's ascendant, Pluto at the base of the world tree, and Uranus, which is probably the most eccentric polar archetype.
Unpredictable.
Yes. In the solar system, hitting the opposite end of this huge T-square.
God.
And that to me is just a picture of, let's face it, the
chaos.
The Grim Reaper.
Right.
Okay, the Lord of Hell. And Uranus is more like Che Guevara. He's over here on the Aries Point. They're shaking it up.
Yes.
So that particular configuration is going to be tense between May and August of 2010. And I stated in the book that, basically now and ever since 2008, as far as pole shifts go, it's like pick a day. Any day. All right, could be tomorrow.
Wow. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Even astrologically, it's that open a field.
Yeah, because these angles and points that are getting activated are being held in these aspects for a long period of time. Those outer planets move very slowly, okay? And when they're on a point or within 5 degrees of it, their influence is still going to be felt. So basically right now, Pluto is sitting right at the base of the world. When you look out in the world around you, that little circle is your reality. You've got the Grim Reaper hanging over the entire horizon. And then you've got Uranus moving into position to oppose that. That's extremely tense set of variables.
God. Now you said malefic planets.
Yeah.
Describe.
Well, malefic planets, you've got the Sun and Moon, Venus and Mars, Jupiter. All of those planets are relatively benign in their influence. Once you get out to Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, there's a whole different state of affairs going on. I mean, Saturn has long been known as the Lord of Karma. Okay, and he basically governs your entrance into this reality. The birth experience is ruled by Saturn. So he constricts, he contracts, he makes things cold, he makes things scarce, he takes things away. He's the Lord of separation. Okay, and his influence, if you're not living in a conscious place, or oriented towards, being accountable and responsible for your experience, Saturn can make your life very difficult. Now, Uranus is the next one out, and Uranus is interesting because his good points are that he is the one that instigates change. But the way he operates is very, very volatile and really eccentric. You really never know what he's going to do. And he's the Lord of earthquakes, lightning, thunder, volcanoes, electricity, and everything that is polar in nature. Okay? Because Uranus's poles rotate at right angles to the pole of every other planet. You see, we're all spinning around like this. Uranus is going around like this.
Wow.
And it's interesting. He flips things.
Oh, yes.
Okay?
On their
So,
polar
yes.
opposite.
And in the same way that he changes your perspective and can do that in a heartbeat,
Yes.
he could flip the planet over. Now, you get out to Neptune. Now, Neptune's a totally different story. I almost don't even want to get into that subject because he's sort of like the great deceiver and the great enlightener at the same time.
Trickster.
But if you go out a little further and you look at Pluto and you think about the things that we were introduced to when we discovered Pluto, Pluto showed up with the atom bomb, Sigmund Freud,
Hitler.
the Great Depression, Adolf Hitler, and all of that other stuff. So that's what he governs.
Underworld,
Yeah,
if you will. The darkness, the shadow
yeah,
shows up.
yeah. And he is the mafia. He is the powers that be. He's a lot of different things. And so his influence is, subterranean in nature. It's also volcanic. And my sense about him is that, man, he could do anything. And right now, it's interesting because, of course, the planets always function in an as above, so below fashion. But we have to look at our outer reality to see where we're at with these guys. And, we don't know how to handle those energies. So human consciousness is going to have a very hard time responding to the influences that these guys create, because they're not going to fool around, and they're not interested in having
Our opinions.
a good time. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And,
Right. They're not fun-loving
yeah.
planets.
So you got to be real conscious to be able to get through this.
Yes. That's the bottom line.
And the changes that we're going through right now have all been instigated by those planets. All the financial meltdown, the loss of home and job, the craziness that appears to be affecting us all, and the questions as to what do we believe in anymore, because everything we've come to value has absolutely no value whatsoever anymore.
What's big is small and small is big.
Yeah.
Everything is perceived oppositely, if you will.
Yeah.
But there's an important point to be made here, Cal, which is who we are relative to these influences and these powers is where the whole thing pivots. And as you said, to the extent that we are conscious and we are aligned and we are flexible in nature, to that extent, this is like a wind blowing, not just a breeze blowing, but a wind, but a strong one. Granted, but we have
1,700 mile an hour winds, hon.
For instance.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Get close to the ground, folks. But you understand, of course you do, that when we are centered in ourselves,
that's right,
in our hearts, in our souls, in our center, like the Chinese refer to the Dantian, elixir field.
Yes.
It's a touch of heaven. Tian is heaven. In the body, so to speak. So when we really ground it, then outer changes will happen. They've always happened. It's the only thing that's constant. And we can live in that reality. I'm not saying it's easy, don't get me wrong, but I'm saying that that's our opportunity as humans to weather this event and come out the other side glorious and grateful.
It could be a beautiful ride.
Yeah.
My sense is that if you're connected inside here and you really know where you're coming from as far as the heart frequency is concerned, this is going to be the most incredible experience you will ever have.
Oh, God.
It's not anything to be afraid of.
Right, exactly. Honestly, as I listen to you speak of the red fog, now that is new to me and I don't know I
Well,
have to
it's
do
so
it. But
funny. Yeah, go ahead.
But when I hear about the 3 days of darkness, I think flotation tank. I had a healing center in New York for the flotation tanks.
Exactly.
I know about the dark room kind of thing, a total sensory restriction,
Exactly.
where you are just driven into yourself, to be one with yourself, because there's no external stimuli.
Yes.
So these are the things that kind of wafted up in my consciousness, like, wow, it's going to be like a global float tank.
Yeah, and I actually think that that's a great way to prepare for the experience, to be quite honest with you. And I think we
Totally.
all ought to be like slowing down a little bit and thinking about, okay.
Exactly. That's
And then,
a very good point.
If you're going to
Slowing
spend
down.
3 days just floating through nothing,
Yeah.
would it help you to get used to it? The other thing that I know
Exactly.
too,
It's like preparation for death. The whole thing is a metaphor for the passage through what we refer to as death.
exactly. And I also think too that because of the codes that were inseminated by Christ and Mary Magdalene, all right, that when that moment occurs, those codes are going to awaken. All right, and each one of us will know exactly what to do. Because their truth is, and this is what's been told, that we've been through this before. And
Humans have been through this before.
Yeah, we've been through this experience before. We've just forgotten it.
Been there, done that, right?
Yeah, and the earth has done it before too.
Yes.
And
So you
she
said in the
knows
prior
exactly
show.
what she's doing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is, if we could just get, instead of being so anthropocentric, which we are, but become geocentric, not in the old sense that we are the center, because Earth is, but that we step aside and see that Earth herself as a living being, Gaia, is moving through her, I don't want to say adolescence, a rite of passage in her own evolution, and that we are on her, going for a ride on her back, if you will. And we are being given the golden opportunity to move forward in our own spiritual evolution thanks to her.
Yes, exactly.
Does that make sense?
Yes, I think that
Understanding?
really beautiful. She's giving birth to herself.
Yes.
And we're going through that with her.
Yes.
And this is also a transformation that is shifting the power away from the male polarity totally to the female polarity. And so this is a totally female event.
Yes.
That's why I have a problem with people needing to nail down the date.
Yes, exactly.
No mother gives birth on her due date.
Right, exactly. At the precise time. That's a very good point. I like that. Exactly. It's not a Swiss train.
No.
A clock.
No.
Exactly. It happens when it happens. Just ask Kali.
And this is like the sort of the rough ballpark thing. I used an analogy. You think big galactic cycles. I mean, really trying to fit all of that into our perception of time is really like trying to funnel an elephant through a pinhole.
Exactly. It's just,
I mean, even if you had a
even a
telephone
silly
pole-
idea.
I know, it's crazy. We're so egocentric.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It should match with our sense of time, It's like, Greenwich Mean Time is only mean,
Well, you understand, even the planetary orbits shift. I mean, Pluto's orbit used to be 20 years long. It's about 12 years long now.
Is that so? What accounts for that?
Well, I think because the tape is rewinding. You know what I mean? I think we're getting down to the end of the tape.
Yeah, right.
And everything's
I wonder
spinning a
if
little
that's
quicker.
for the metaphor of the end of the show. I don't think so. But it's interesting. You raised a point before, Cal, that I want to kind of revisit, which is, what if it all doesn't happen as spoken of in the prophecy? What if it doesn't?
Great.
Well, you know what?
What is? Yeah.
No matter, there is such a serious problem of pollution, of disrespect of Mother Earth, of disrespect for all of her sentient life, including each other, except for when it's not, that there must be a change.
Yes.
Our waters are polluted. Our
That's right.
soil is depleted. Our air is fouled. Must be a change. Whether there is an apocalyptic pole change or not. And for people to be rooted in their body
Yeah.
and their heart,
Yeah.
where else is there to go?
There's no place else
That
to go.
is the place to be. Is that not the lesson in it all anyway?
Yeah. I don't care if it happens or not, to
That's
be quite frank with you.
That's exactly the point.
Yeah.
What do we lose? Nothing. What have we gained? Everything.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that all of this is happening specifically now because we've gone so far away from the truth. And what constitutes, maintaining a good relationship with the Creator.
Exactly.
Okay, and with Mother Earth, and with our purpose here. We're stewards here.
Exactly.
Okay, that's all we are. We didn't come here to do what we've been doing. This is all crazy. People.
We're visitors. We're guests.
Yeah.
Really? Thank you so much for joining us. This is Mitchell J. Rabin for A Better World. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did, and I look forward to seeing you all next week.